Will Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan actually end the war? To find out, I've put two AIs into a head-to-head battle and brought in 5 AI judges to score each round. No human bias, just machine-level analysis.
The plan is not a realistic path to peace. It is a framework of fatal ambiguities. First, it fails to provide a concrete timeline for a full Israeli withdrawal, linking it only to vague milestones, as Al Jazeera reported in 2025. This gives Israel a permanent veto. Second, the plan contains no mechanisms for monitoring compliance or penalizing clear breaches, a point highlighted by the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. in 2025. It is a deal built on hope, not on enforcement. How can a plan without a schedule or a referee ever be considered realistic?
To fairly settle this debate, I've configured 5 unbiased AI models to act as judges. They'll rank our debaters across 4 core categories: logic, evidence, responsiveness, and clarity. No human bias, just pure AI reasoning. But before we continue, if you enjoy AI debates, then please feel free to subscribe with post notifications on. Let's see who takes round 1.
My opponent calls ambiguity a weakness. I call it leverage. A realistic plan avoids rigid timelines that inevitably fail. The enforcement mechanism is not a toothless UN referee as you seem to want. It is the credible diplomatic and economic pressure from regional partners unified by the Abraham Accords framework, which the US Department of State laid out in 2020. This plan uses real leverage, not failed multilateralism. Given that decades of UN-led monitoring have failed, why do you believe another UN committee is the key to realism?
The plan's core components are simply not viable. Take verification. The agreement offers no mechanism for interpreting its provisions, resolving conflicts, or penalizing clear breaches, as the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. noted in 2025. It is an unenforceable piece of paper. Worse, it demands Hamas's full disarmament, which a 2025 report from ECFR notes as akin to complete surrender and a non-starter for its fighters. Then look at governance. The plan creates a technocratic committee with no defined authority or popular support, a fact reported by Al Jazeera in 2025. This is not a government. It is a power vacuum. This plan does not solve the day after problem. It guarantees the conflict will simply resume under a new name.
My opponent misinterprets a lack of UN monitors for a lack of enforcement. The enforcement mechanism is credible pressure on Hamas's state backers, like Qatar, who host their leadership, a fact confirmed by the Center for Strategic and International Studies in 2024. The plan correctly identifies that a durable ceasefire requires Hamas's disarmament. Allowing them to rearm, as past ceasefires have done, is what is unrealistic, according to a 2024 analysis from the Institute for National Security Studies. Finally, this technocratic committee is not a vacuum. It is the necessary bridge to a regional security force where Arab partners have the shared interest to govern a post-Hamas Gaza, a model proposed by the Council on Foreign Relations in 2025. This plan confronts hard realities. It does not ignore them.
My opponent's bridge to an Arab security force is structurally unsound. Key Arab partners have made it clear they will not send troops to police Gaza without a clear, binding pathway to Palestinian statehood, a point Al Jazeera made in 2025. This plan explicitly avoids that. Instead, it creates a board of peace to supervise the technocratic committee. This board, chaired by Trump, excludes essential partners. As Northeastern Global News noted in 2025, the European Union, the largest PA donor, has been excluded from the core political decision-making. This plan does not invite regional partners, it dictates terms, guaranteeing they will stay away.
I now have 3 questions for you. First, has UN monitoring ever successfully prevented Hamas from rearming after a ceasefire? Next, is a durable peace possible if Hamas is allowed to keep its weapons? Finally, does the Palestinian Authority currently have the legitimacy or capacity to govern Gaza?
First, on UN monitoring, no, but past monitoring failures do not justify this plan having no monitoring mechanism at all. Next, on peace with an armed Hamas, no, but the plan's demand for total surrender without guarantees is not a realistic path to that disarmament. Finally, regarding the PA's legitimacy, no, which is why creating an unelected committee with no local buy-in will fail even more spectacularly. I now have 3 questions for you. First, does the plan set a fixed date for a full Israeli withdrawal? Next, does the plan create a neutral body to verify demilitarization? Finally, does the plan guarantee a Palestinian state, not just an aspiration?
First, you asked about a fixed withdrawal date. No. Rigid, arbitrary deadlines are unrealistic and have failed. Withdrawal must be conditions-based. Next, regarding a neutral verification body, no. The plan relies on regional partners and U.S. leverage, not a failed multilateral body that Hamas ignores. Finally, on guaranteeing a Palestinian state, no. It realistically prioritizes security and de-radicalization before discussing a state, not as a reward for terror.
This plan is not a realistic path, it is a collection of fatal flaws. My opponent relies on credible pressure to enforce the deal, but the plan itself provides no neutral body to verify compliance, a flaw identified by the Arab Center DC in 2025. Without verification, any claim of a violation becomes a pretext for Israel to halt withdrawal permanently. The plan demands total disarmament, which, as the ECFR 2025 report calls it, is akin to complete surrender and a non-starter for its fighters. It installs a technocratic government with no popular support, creating a power vacuum, as Al Jazeera also reported in 2025. It fails to secure a fixed timeline for withdrawal and fails to secure buy-in from crucial Arab partners who see no real path to statehood. This is not a peace plan. It is a recipe for a managed occupation that will inevitably collapse back into violence. The motion fails.
My opponent fundamentally misunderstands realism. He calls for failed mechanisms like neutral bodies, which Hamas has ignored for decades. This plan is realistic because it replaces that fantasy with real enforcement. Credible pressure on Hamas's state backers like Qatar, who host their leadership, a fact confirmed by the Center for Strategic and International Studies in 2024. The plan correctly identifies that a durable ceasefire requires Hamas's disarmament. Allowing them to rearm, as past ceasefires have done, is what is unrealistic, according to a 2024 analysis from the Institute for National Security Studies. Finally, this technocratic committee is not a vacuum. It is the necessary bridge to a regional security force where Arab partners have the shared interest to govern a post-Hamas Gaza, a model proposed by the Council on Foreign Relations in 2025. This is not a managed occupation. It is the only strategy that dismantles the terror apparatus, rather than hoping it disappears. The motion stands.
And there we have it. The speaker who is against Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan wins. Do you agree with AI's scoring? Let me know down in the comments section.